We're returning to the horror genre this week with a WonderSwan port of a 1995 game that led to the birth of survival horror games, Clock Tower. Clock Tower for WonderSwan was released on December 9th, 1999, published by Naxat Soft, and developed by Human Entertainment. Oddly enough, the only mention of Human Entertainment on the series thus far was a passing mention during the episode about Kyosoba Ikuse Simulation Keiba, a horse racing simulation game. Human had a game creator school called Human Creative School, which teamed up with Bandai in order to create the Beck Studio, which was responsible for the development and publishing of that game. While Human Entertainment is near and dear to my heart due to being the originators of the rhythm game genre with the release of Dance Aerobics for the NES in 1987, they are probably best known for the Fire Pro Wrestling series as well as their highly influential work early in the horror game scene. Clock Tower is a point-and-click adventure game where you play an orphan named Jennifer Simpson. She and 3 other orphans are adopted and are moving into a mansion called the Clock Tower, owned by a rich man called Simon Barrows. Upon their arrival to the mansion, the woman who took them there, Mary, leaves to fetch Mr. Barrows, but she takes a suspiciously long time, so Jennifer heads off to investigate. Upon doing so, she hears a loud scream and eventually finds one of the other girls she came with was killed. She then meets the antagonist of the game, a little boy with scissors called the Scissorman, who stalks her throughout the game as she tries to figure out exactly what's going on. The director of the game, Hifumi Kono, based the game on the works of his favorite film director, Dario Argento, an Italian horror film director. Clock Tower most resembles the 1985 movie Phenomena, starring Jennifer Connelly. Not only is the design of Jennifer Simpson based heavily on Connelly's performance as Jennifer Corvino in Phenomena, but many of the themes present in Clock Tower's plot overlap with other horror films Argento released throughout the 1980s. One of the unique elements of the game at the time was that the majority of the game is spent running away from a threat, and many of Kono's peers had doubts that this would make for a compelling game. However, the haunting mood of the game was enough to keep the game thrilling despite that. Clock Tower is a highly atmospheric game, or at least it was on platforms other than the WonderSwan. One uniting aspect of horror games on the WonderSwan is the huge badge on the front of the box encouraging you to make use of headphones for this game in order to bathe in its atmosphere. But when comparing it to Terrors, which we looked at in episode 36, there just isn't much to bathe in here sound-wise. A lot was lost graphically in the conversion to grayscale as well. While the Super Famicom version was far more limited than the eventual PlayStation and PC ports when it came to color palette and some color bending could be apparent in certain scenes, that was never really an issue because it still did a convincing job of being really spooky. Here, a lot of the atmosphere just feels like it was sucked right out of the game, and we're left with a dry, dull-looking point-and-click that plays at a really slow pace. By all indications, Clock Tower for WonderSwan was a total failure, selling less than 1,000 copies, and I can't say I recommend it either. Fans of the horror genre should definitely check out a version of Clock Tower. Any version of Clock Tower, so long as it's not the WonderSwan version. If you'd like to hear more about the original Super Famicom release of Clock Tower, my friends over at the Super Nintendo Exploration Squad podcast did a full episode about it, which you can check out at snes.zone, and look for episode 13. Big thanks to the host of the podcast, Virtual Clint, for helping me capture footage for this episode after some unforeseen emulation issues.